This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Yes, sir. Welcome to another episode of the Detroit Sports Podcast. I'm the Doc. My cousin Adam Swarzinski came in here looking like he's ready for the beach, bro.
Yeah, dude, I got to get this on my MP3 player for at the gym because it just gets me so hyped. Like, I just want to go either crush faces or lift things that are heavy.
What's up, cuz? Let's kick this bad boy off. We got a great podcast upcoming. Always look forward to the Wednesdays when we record this bad boy. What's on your mind, kind sir?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So I want to tell you about what happened this morning. So you know how basically my day goes. I get a butt crack of dawn, I go fly around the city, get done, and then I race over to the gym. And on Wednesdays, it's extra crammed just because I got to sit there, I got to do everything I got to do in the morning for work. I then try to fit a gym session in, and then I have to run home, shower, eat, and then I come here. And that's why I have time. I'm always late whenever I show up. It's usually, I basically run on Arabic time. You know the deal. So it doesn't ever bother you, but it bothers me because I'm like, man, I feel like I'm putting you out, you know, because I'm like, hey, we're going to be here at this time. Then I'm always 5, 10, 15 minutes late. Anyways, I'm at the gym today, and Wednesdays is my back day. I usually do deadlifts, and I basically try to lift the world, or try to anyways. And today I'm deadlifting 400 pounds, and I'm sitting there, and when I lift angry, I lift fierce, and basically it's just, I'm usually look really upset when I'm lifting, and it's not so much that I'm upset, I'm just kind of intense with it. So I'm sitting there lifting, and I'm deadlifting 400 pounds, and I go down, I pull it up, and I've got the weight basically resting at this point at the top of the movement, and this guy comes over, and he's like,
"You already know I wanna fuck you. You already know.
Can I get some weight? Can I get some weight?" And like, I'm in the middle of working out. I got headphones on. I'm banging music, and I'm like, I look angry. I look mad, and it's like I'm in the middle of working out, and I've got a lot of weight in front of me here. You don't ever go up to somebody who's in the middle of working out, especially lifting that amount of weight, and just bother them. One, it's unsafe, right? I basically dislocated a testicle lifting weight like this before on the deadlift. I totally slipped out of my hand. I tried to grab it instead of just letting it fall, and one thing led to another. My nut shot up into my stomach. It was pretty gross. Anyways, so I got this boner doing this to me while I'm working out. I just kind of nodded. I'm like, yeah, just get the hell away from me, right? Because like I don't want to hurt myself. I'm in the middle of doing this. Just leave me the hell alone. So I get done working out, wrap everything up, and I look at the time like, oh crap, I got to hurry up and get out of here. So I run to the locker room. I grab all my stuff out of my locker, throw it in my bag, and I got to take a leak real quick before I leave. So I go into the bathroom. That same boner is now standing at the urinal. And he must be slow. I'm not sure. I have no idea. Because he's standing at the urinal, and he's got his pants down around his knees, and just butt cheeks, ass cheeks akimbo. Just out there. I'm like, what are you? Like, I must work out at like the worst gym ever. Because these guys just either A, don't get it, or B, they're just not right. Because this guy is just hanging out, peeing in the urinal, butt cheeks hanging out, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Are you serious? And it's the same Yahoo who was bothering me for weight while I was sitting there with 400 pounds in my hands. Like, what are you doing?
There's a lot of things you see at the gym where you know.
Have you ever seen guys blow dry their pubes at the gym?
No.
Oh, dude, I used to work out at LA Fitness right there in Troy, and guys would stand there in the mirror with the blow dryers and they would blow dry their pubes. I'm like, what?
Why?
I don't know, Vinny. I don't know. Oh, it was disgusting. I was like, what is going on?
When I get into the gym locker room, I'm laser focused because you know there's always that one guy that's stretching out his leg, like one leg up.
Oh, with no pants on.
what are you doing? So I'm laser focused on all I can see is the locker number in front of me and the combination. That's it. Because I also work out at a place though where there's young kids around, and it's weird because there's a pool associated with the gym, and you got these young kids running around, and you're like, how do I look up, down nonchalantly, because I'm not trying to look at no kids. So I have a simple rule. I'm at the gym, I stare directly at my locker, and that's it. So I'm oblivious to the world. But yeah, there's a lot of things at the gym that you look at and you go, really? All you got to do is you put a 15-pound weight, you grabbed it, you went to work out, you leave it on the floor, and you just leave it there?
Oh, dude, I've got this guy. He looks like Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. He's got this crazy hair. He sits there, he works out on every machine, and he leaves it either full of weights or he leaves the weights all over the floor. And it's really starting to piss me off because he ends up leaving everything just everywhere. And then I've got people who come up to me like, are you using this? Like, I'm in the middle of my workout. Just leave me the hell alone. I don't bother you. Don't bother me. I don't know. Just do you see Sideshow Bob anywhere? If you don't see Sideshow Bob, then I'm assuming it's okay. Just go ahead. We've got a leg press machine. This guy, he doesn't even push enough weight to where you can like logically just leave it because you're so tired because you cashed yourself out. This guy's got like 2 plates on each side and then he's done. Like, just take your weight off, dude. 1, you're not strong. 2, you look like a freaking cartoon character. 3, you're a boob, so just quit. Just stop while you're ahead, dude.
Let me tell you something. There should be definitely people that do not need to be anywhere near a gym. And for me, the biggest thing that I notice is people are so rude at the gym sometimes when you try to go and use their weight or you're patiently waiting to get on a machine. It's like literally, okay, you sit on a machine, do your damn set, and keep it moving. What people tend to do is they're sitting at the bench press, they do their 10 sets, and then they take like 6 minutes in between their set, staring at their phone.
Are they talking on their phone? I hate that person.
Yeah, or they're looking at their phone and taking up time where you go, you know what, I'm only here to do like, 2 sets of 10 each. I'll be done in 4 minutes. Keep it moving. Mm-hmm. And so, or for example, let's say you do a tough set and you're really tired. You got this guy that just stands over you waiting like, dude, you could just say, hey, can I, the proper way isn't it to say, hey, can I get in here and we'll go back and forth?
Can I work in with you? Yeah.
Can I work in with you?
Yep.
I've had that happen quite a bit where someone's just nice and cordial, but then there's other guys that are just kind of like giving you dirty looks or looking at you funny. And
They're the machine hawks. I hate the machine hawks.
Yeah, so people at the gym that don't know what they're doing, you get an award. Yeah, man, that's the thing. That's why people tend to maybe even avoid the gym is just dealing with people that don't know what they're doing. It's like, it's really simple. I mean, it takes one day to kind of go around, look at the machine, learn what you're supposed to do, and act accordingly. But there's so many people that don't. They act like it's their own house or they can just do whatever the hell they want.
Dude, it's just gym etiquette. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? You sit there, you use some weights, re-rack your weights. You sit there, you're trying to wait for a machine. Go find something else to do. Maybe keep it in eye shot so you can, once you see somebody's done, you can go get on it. But don't sit there and hawk these people. Don't sit there and swarm them like vultures.
And should you catch the doc freeballing it, don't ask me about the Tigers and don't ask me about the podcast because I'm going to be looking at you a little bit cross-eyed like, dude, wait for me to put my drawers on.
Right. Let me hide my schwanz here. Let me put it in some boxer shorts or something.
Exactly. So that that's why I go to the gym only twice a week. And
can I cup a towel, something to hide myself? I don't know why you're looking at me down there.
How was your Easter? Was everything cool?
Yeah, it was all right, man. It wasn't nothing really special that happened. It was ended up going to my mom. So here's the deal. I ended up going out Saturday night, right? I totally forgot about this. I went out Saturday night, met my buddy, and we had a really good time. I probably drank a little too much because I was moving extra slow come Easter Sunday. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed. I just wanted to lay there all day long. Ended up getting to my mom's house extra late, and it was just kind of just laid back, and we just chilled out at her house, watched some hockey, watched some basketball, watched the Tigers game. So that was cool. I didn't have as eventful of an Easter as you had, though. And I was sitting there watching the basketball game, and you sent me a message, and I'm just going to let you just kind of take this and run now and just kind of set the scene and what happened.
Yeah, so for me, it's a little different because I do got 5 young kids running around.
I seen pictures. It was like romper room.
Yeah, 2 of my own and 3 of my sisters. So it's a fun thing to set up an Easter egg hunt. So for me, what I did was I worked Saturday, took Friday and Monday off, and spent some time with the family. So it was great. There are 3 girls and 2 boys, but the boys are rambunctious. And my oldest nephew, Anthony Joseph, is a rambunctious little kid, and he's good. He's he likes sports. sports. He really loves Tigers baseball. We could fling the baseball around and have fun with that. But now he's at that age where he's 6.5 years old. So he's got that little bit of defiance in him. And so he, obviously
Starting to get that attitude.
Exactly. And so what tends to happen is he gets with his uncle Matt, and they're like, plotting against me. So this wasn't something organic that he figured out, but we're talking, we're having a conversation, we're in the living room, and we're just tossing the ball, shooting the breeze a little bit. So he kind of walks over, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm on the ground. And I'm like, oh! And I'm like, why did you do that? And over there, he's sitting there basically doing a little dance like he got one over on me. Damn near a 6-year-old punched me in the nuts, flush, and he balled up his fist and directly punched me. And I was on the ground like, oh, and this is not like a light flick, the joking around kind. No, he literally wound up and Mike Tyson me right in the balls. And I was like, and the part that sucked though is when you see a little 6-year-old like laughing at your torture, and he's starting to realize that he can inflict pain on his uncle. And now they've figured that out. I got to protect my my groin area.
So I think the real question is he more Mike Tyson or is he more Floyd Mayweather?
No, he's more Mike Tyson. He knows the direct area to hit, and boom, I was on the ground within a second. Like, it was literally a conversation, boom, I was on the ground, because he literally didn't joke around or nothing about it. He just was standing there, boom, he did it, and it was direct shot, and then you know how it is. It's like that slow pain where it hurts, and then it starts working its way up to your gut, and you're just like,
you feel it like in your belly button.
Yeah, and the whole family thinks you're having a heart attack, and they're like, "What's happened? What happened?" I'm like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And he's in there laughing, and I'm like, "He hit me in the nuts." So of course I rat him out, and his mom yells at him and stuff like that. But the fun thing is with a kid like that is he's going to be a ribber when he gets older. He's going to tell jokes and play pranks, and it was fun. Another thing I did that I checked out, I don't know if you've ever been there before, I went to Splash Village out there at Frankenmuth on Monday.
No.
So I took the day off, and it's awesome. It's a water park, 2 parts, outdoor, indoor, water slide. So I took the 2 girls on Monday and stayed overnight, and I had a great time. It was unbelievable. So, but, for me, as you know, I'm a pretty simple kind of guy. So I have a house, pretty standard, couple cars, nothing too fancy. I kind of
You don't mow your own lawn, though.
I don't mow my own lawn.
We established that, I think, last year around this time.
I've fully come to the realization I'm not handy, and you just work a little harder and pay someone to do it. But but what tends to happen is now you start going to places, you start doing things with the kids, and then you start going, man, how good I felt just sitting in the water all day long, because we got there about noon, and we stayed in the water till about 6 p.m. because it's all day. It's open every day, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we got there, hung out in the pool area all day long, and I'm like, dang it. Now I'm starting to get wants. I'm like, Maddie, do you want to stay in our house, or do you want to maybe, should I work harder? Should I get a house with a pool? She's like, no, this was fun. But I'm starting to go, man, a house with a pool would be really cool.
Right.
And so I'm a simple guy, but then when you start doing stuff, you start getting those wants, and I'm like, oh man, how much would a pool cost?
So
it's expensive as fuck.
Yeah, they're not cheap. You got that nice backyard though.
It's workable.
Yeah, you could put something up back there.
But see, my thinking at the time was build a nice patio to have gatherings and hang out in a spot where you could just gather the family. I didn't think about pools, and so I wanted a big backyard. So that was a big drawing point for me. The thinking would be then maybe to cut out the patio and shrink it down and put a pool basically directly behind it. But that would cut out basically 60% of the backyard. And I like seeing the kids run around, and it has its advantages to have a nice backyard. You can toss the baseball around, run around. But what do you think? Should I get a pool?
Well, here's the thing: the way you're. This is basically podcast for 2 at this point. The way your backyard's set up, you do have that really nice patio where we've had numerous family events there. What you could do is you could put your pool on the
off to the side a little bit.
Yeah, towards the left side, towards your neighbor's property. You can put your pool there. You can keep that nice little open stretch, and then it kind of makes like an L shape around the side of your house, along the side of your garage there, and that would totally work for you.
But now to extend this out a little bit, our pool's worth it in Michigan, because the wife had mentioned, you know what, you're only going to get a chance to use it maybe April, May, June, July, August. And then around that time, it gets to be fall weather. So you're basically using it a little bit half the time of the year. Basically, you're going to get a pool 50% of the time. So our pool's in Michigan worth it.
When I was a kid, I had a pool. It was my grandmother bought it and basically was like, told my mom, like, here, I'm buying this, and it's going at your house because she didn't have the room at her house. And the pool is basically for her, but she sold it as like a family gift for my mom. My mom was like, I don't want this damn thing. It's going to be too expensive to keep up. But I will tell you this much. The pool did teach me a lot of responsibility, because the pool became my chore, my job. So in the summertime, it was my chore to sit there, vacuum the pool, make sure the pH was right, make sure it had the chlorine, make sure the filter was working. all that jazz. So it did teach me a lot of responsibilities, which I think is good for the girls. You could sit there and use it to teach the girls responsibilities. It is a little expensive, but I will say this. You will probably use your pool between May, June, July, August, and you'll probably use it right up until September, and then you probably won't actually close it up until maybe the beginning of October. So you're going to get 5, maybe 6 months of use out of it. I will tell you this much. In the summertime, when it's hot as hell out, it's
nothing better.
It's
great.
totally worth it. Totally worth it. And I know you don't cut your own lawn, but when I had to sit there and cut the grass for my mom, there was nothing better than cutting the grass, finishing up, and then going and jumping in the pool. So,
okay. Yeah, see, that's what life's about. You get that extra motivation, you get that extra little want, and that's why you work extra hard and you say, okay, how would I do this? But it's not cheap, and we have to probably figure out how to zone it and get it done properly. But I think it's something that's maybe in the pre-planning phase. You know me, if you go right to the top and just find a house with an indoor pool.
Oh, you could do that. How old are the girls right now?
They're about to be 5 and 3.
Okay, so you probably don't want one this year, especially with the 3-year-old running around. You might want to wait maybe another year or two. That way you've got a 7 and a 5-year-old. At 5, she's a little bit more responsible than she is now, and the 7-year-old can watch the 5-year-old because she knows more of what the heck's going on. So you might want to wait a year or two. So just start adding to that savings account. You got this, bro.
Yeah, we'll see what happens because like I said, I am really a simpleton, not a big spender, but that would be a big. The first thing though, I think I got to do though in the next year is
your sister will be over all the time.
No doubt about it. The thing that I got to do though is I got to finish the basement because I've been in that house damn near 12 years and I can't. I'm getting tired of looking at that basement for utilizing it for storage. You know what I mean? I got boxes that I still have from the old house. So I got to clear all that out this year, this spring. That'll be the first goal. And then the next step will be to build a damn near awesome man cave.
If you get a chance, go to YouTube. You can check out, I think, episode 20, 23 or something like that.
A description of it.
Yeah, it was basically done in that basement. So you might hear like a leaky pipe or something in the background.
All right. Well, changing gears, talking about the Detroit Tigers, I thought when we would start peeking into the Tigers, there would be a little bit more negative things to talk about. But so far, the start to the season has been pretty good. I know the opening loss to the Tampa Bay Rays wasn't really impressive, and Michael Fulmer had an okay outing. But, the way we look at it right now, at the time of this recording, no team has beaten the Detroit Tigers that they played more than once in a series. They've won several consecutive series after the, 2 games they played versus the White Sox. And so when I look at the Detroit Tigers, obviously, there are things that people are looking at in terms of the bullpen and some of the nicks and injuries that are kind of creeping up. But so far, so good with the Detroit Tigers. There's a lot of things we can look at that are positive with this team before we start looking at all the warts.
Yeah, this is going to be a very weird season. Yeah, I feel like.
You think so?
I feel like it's going to be real up and down because you've got to be able to hit with your starting pitching, or you got to be able to hit with your lineup. Because I don't think you can count on this bullpen. I really feel like this bullpen is going to be the Achilles heel of this team going forward. So that being said, if I sat there and I took a fork and I stuck it to your eyeball and I said, look, you've got to pick one of these. Are the Tigers going to lose the division? Because I think they have a real shot to possibly win this division. I don't think the division is strong enough at this point where if you're a Tiger fan, you should be afraid of Cleveland. You should be afraid of Minnesota. You should be afraid of the White Sox. Afraid of the Royals. I think the Tigers have a legit shot to win this division because I don't think the division is strong enough right now. I think they're right in the mix with every other team. If I held a fork to your eyeball and I said, you've got to pick because I'm going to rip your eyeball out with this rusty fork, will the Tigers lose the division because of the bullpen, or will the Tigers win the division because of their starting pitching? Because I think that's the real strength on this team, and I think the bullpen's the real weakness.
No, I'm going out on a limb. I think the Tigers have the potential of those two options to win the division because of their starting pitching. I think that what you've seen is a starting staff that, if they evolve from where they started, could do some real damage. Norris and Boyd have come in there and they're starting to find their command a little bit more, and they're starting to command other pitches a little bit better. And that's why there is a little bit of value in adding Alex Avila back to this team, and we'll talk about him in just a few minutes. But what he was able to do for Daniel Norris in his last performance was unbelievable in terms of just forcing him to throw off-speed pitches one after another, because young pitchers, what do when they get a little bit unsettled or when, things get in tight moments? They just want to rear back and throw fastball after fastball. And what Alex Avila did for Daniel Norris was to say, hey, no, throw your off-speed stuff, confuse the hitters a little bit more, and that resulted in a quality start. Matt Boyd has been a little bit inconsistent, but he's starting to turn the page a little bit in terms of his performances for the Detroit Tigers as a starter. And you got to remember, these guys are young, and so where they're at now is going to be vastly different than in the midpoint of the season. And then you add Verlander and Zimmerman. I really like what this team can do with their starting pitching. And then the other part that you kind of have to add into the flavor of those two options is I think that obviously when the Tigers have a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead, we're all going to be nervous. But an opportunity for this team, considering that they've started off the year, playing 13 games and having 13 consecutive games where they've hit a home run, is you can use your offense to kind of protect that bullpen a little bit, where you can kind of get out to those 6-1 leads or score a bunch of runs to help you offset the garbage bullpen that you have. Of course, there are going to be situations where you're down 4-1 and you need the bullpen to kind of limit the damage. It's just not going to be as consistent. So the onus is going to be get a lead and continue to build upon those leads. And the Tigers have to develop a mentality of there is no lead large enough that we can protect. Everybody has to go balls to the wall for 9 innings and allow yourself to protect that garbage bullpen. And I think the Tigers can really win a lot of series and play well. And with this team, I really like the 8-5 start. Getting up ahead in the division early on to start the year is not a bad thing, not a bad place to be.
While I agree with a lot of what you said, I think this bullpen is just a epic disaster waiting to happen.
But you don't think that you could start with, the notion of A+ prime, everybody rested, Wilson, Rodriguez could get you a win or two every series if they're rested.
I agree if you can go with that route every single time, but the problem is your bullpen arms don't usually go and they don't pitch every single day the way you'd like them to. And especially if you've got a pitcher who gets a little bit roughed up in a game. I mean, you've seen it last week with Verlander. He got roughed up a little bit. You've seen it with Fulmer. He got roughed up a little bit. And that by no means is knocking down what they've been able to do this early in the season. I think they're both really good players, and I think they're in a prime spot, and I think they're going to help carry this team. But if your starting pitchers go out and they get roughed up just a little bit and you now have to turn it over to that bullpen, I mean, Anibal Sanchez is an unmitigated disaster right now. He's got an ERA of 11. Every time this guy takes the mound, he's giving up the long ball. And he's the only guy in this bullpen who's going to be your long reliever. You've got guys down in Toledo who I think can come up and perform much better. I mean, you've got guys like Buck Farmer who you can bring up, and I think he's going to give you a better shot to win games or keep you in a game longer than Anibal Sanchez. Anibal Sanchez just gives up 3-run shots left and right, and that's not going to do anything for this team. I mean, right now, your bullpen arms have an ERA of over 6, almost 7 runs. That is awful. That's absolutely atrocious. Right now, they've given up almost 50 hits in a very short amount of time.
Oh, no!
I just don't think that unless you make some wholesale changes to this bullpen, I don't think you've got a great shot to sit there and be carried by your starting arms and be carried by your bats, because your bats are going to end up cooling down at some point, and your starting arms are going to have games where they just don't get off to good starts, and you've got to go to that bullpen early. And if you go to that bullpen early, you then throw out the whack of, like you said, going Wilson, Rodriguez. And look, Justin Wilson and Alex Wilson have done great jobs, and Frankie's a little bit of a question mark when he gets out there, right? He's basically pitched in 6 games. He's got 1 win and 5 saves, right? And you're like, oh wow, that's awesome. That's great. He's got 9 strikes per 9, so he's basically a strike an inning guy at this point. And you're thinking, yeah, that's great. But at the same time, this is the same Frankie Rodriguez who gave up a grand slam to Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie freaking Chisenhall. You know what I'm saying? Let that sink in just a little bit, You don't have the arms in this bullpen to really sit there and carry you. And I think Anibal Sanchez is the first move that has to be made. As soon as either Alavila or Osmus gets it, through their head that, hey, we can't have this guy up here anymore. You either got to DFA him and take your chances that either some other team picks him up and picks up that contract, or you DFA him and you send him down to Toledo and you let him work on some things, and then you can bring him back up if need be, in case of emergency, break glass only. But I think you've got guys like Buck Farmer you can bring up, and he's going to perform much better. And I think we both agree, Joe Jimenez needs to be up here. He needs to be in this bullpen. He needs to be coming out, and he can give you some innings, and he can do some work up here. He has proven in his very short stint that he looks like he's fully capable of being able to perform at a major league level.
See, the way I'm looking at it is you have those three guys that have been kind of carrying you so far in that bullpen. Alex Wilson, Justin Wilson, and Frankie Rodriguez. Then you look at it as the secondary guys are not doing anything to help the cause at all. We need one other person to step up. You throw a Kyle Ryan in there, and you think that he's got stuff, and for whatever reason, gets runners on base, has a hard time getting outs. Then you go to Shane Green. Every time he's going out there, he's struggling a little bit to get guys out consistently. Then you say, okay, you had Bruce Rondon. He didn't earn the confidence of the coaching staff, and he gets sent down. So then you get the bright ray of hope in Joe Jimenez. They bring him up, and what does he do? Boom. His first performance, he gets guys out. He uses his flame-throwing weapons, and he gets guys out, only to have, the moment, the hope get crushed when they sent him back down for a guy that they thought was a long reliever. And his first performance, Cuevas, I was like, seriously? Who is this guy? I already gave him a nickname in that he's Jose Cuervo Cuevas, and that every time he comes up, I'm going to take a couple shots of that. And then boom, his first performance was horrid, and they sent him back down. And you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, they really don't have any real tangible options. And when you throw out the name of Buck Farmer, they've already run that option last year, and when he comes up to the big leagues, he struggles. He's a traditional minor league player. He's a talent that does well in the minors, but when he gets called up, he just doesn't have the necessary stuff to get over and to continue success. So I look at it and I go, man, they just need one or two other arms to come out there and support what's going on. But to extend it out a little bit, knowing that the bullpen is the worst thing ever, the worst unit probably in all of baseball, do you then say, you know what? You have to give Brad Ausmus a pass because he literally is running out there managing a team with one major component that's just on the verge of detonating every time he goes out there But hell, there are going to be moments when the Wilsons mess up or when K-Rod throws an 89-mile-an-hour curve that a major league hitter can connect and crush out of the ballpark. So I'm starting to look at it, and I'm starting to feel bad for the manager because I would be out there championing it every day going, I'm really struggling to utilize this bullpen in the best way possible. Obviously, we struggle in several areas, but we got to make the best of it, and we're 8-5 so far, even with that garbage mess of a bullpen.
The one thing I can say about Brad Ausmus this year is he seems much more relaxed and much more comfortable and confident in what he's doing. And I think that goes a long way. If you hear him in post-game interviews, you hear him in interviews before the game, he sounds really sure about what he's doing. And I don't know if that's just because he's like, look, this is the bullpen I got, and this is all I can do with it. Or look at these arms. I don't know about you. I feel really confident with the starting pitching, and I feel real good about that lineup that's out there each and every day. I'm not confident with the bullpen, and I think he understands that, and he sees what this team has, and he sees what the one weakness is. He knows what the Achilles heel is, and it's that bullpen. And I feel like he's like, you know what? If you guys are going to be mad at anybody, be mad at the guy who's giving me this team. Be mad at the guy who is forcing me to run this lineup out there. Because I don't necessarily feel bad for him. I just think he now understands, and he is comfortable with the fact that I've got a starting rotation that's going to have to give me 6 good quality innings, and I've got a lineup that's going to have to smack the laces off the ball. And if I don't get either one of those or a combination of both, we're probably going to lose this game. And I'm okay with it. And if that means I've got to sit there and I've got to run Anibal Sanchez out there and I've got to give him 3 innings to sit there and hang himself and sit there and implode this game where we might be down, 6-3. And then when he's done taking the mound, we're down 11-6. If that's what it is, that's what it's going to be, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I think he is comfortable with that, and that makes me feel much more confident in his abilities, that he just kind of recognizes what kind of team he has at this point. I don't feel like he's made that one crucial mistake at any point thus far this season. And I know it's early in the year, but I just feel like he now understands what he has to do each and every game.
Are you looking at it and you say that Brad Ausmus maybe deserves an extension? Early talks about potentially...
No, we're not going that far.
No, okay.
We're not going that far, okay? And this is the thing. I think you temper those talks till maybe the end of the season because, look, there may be a guy out there who is a much better head coach than Brad Ausmus is. And you might be able to sit there and go out and grab that guy at the end of the season. But at this point, I don't feel like we should start the fire Ausmus chants, because I don't think he's done anything to deserve to be fired at this point. You know, if anything, look at Al Avila. He's the one who's giving you this bullpen. He's the one who's also put together this starting staff, which I think is a plus. And he's also signed these contracts or not traded away these guys. I think maybe in this case it's more, I haven't done anything with these bats. And I think the bats are a plus at this time. You know, look, you got JD Martinez getting ready to take some batting practice down in the minor leagues, and he'll be sitting there working through with Toledo until, you know, he's 100% and can come back up. So you've got a bat that you're hoping is warm when it comes up and can sit there and drive the ball. On top of that, you've got a guy who I think is more of a plus in the field than a minus in the field. So that's going to help defensively. It's just, this bullpen's a giant question mark each and every time somebody takes the mound.
Collectively, though, would you say that you give credit to the offense having, hit home runs in 13 consecutive games at the time of this recording? I think that the offense has really helped in that you've gotten some contributions from guys that you wouldn't think, like Alex Avila, like a Romine, Jose Iglesias sprinkling in, getting on base every now and then. I look at it and I say, okay, the offense has some things they can work on, and there are guys at the top end that are struggling, but collectively, the offense is doing some things, and hey, there's nothing better than cranking out a 3-run home run right when you need it.
Look, let's just talk about what Alex Avila is doing right now, all right? The guy's played in 6 games. He's got 7 hits. He's got 2 doubles. He's got 2 home runs. The guy's driven in 5 runs. I mean, he's playing solid right now. He's got a batting average north of 500. He's got a slugging percentage that's 1.154. He's got an OPS that's over 1800. I mean, he's doing an admirable job as your backup catcher. That's great. I mean, this is just talks about some of the depth in that secondary hitting. This is a guy who you're not expecting anything from, and he's carrying the torch right now. He's doing a great job. So, yeah, I think it bodes well for this team that you're getting a great showing from your secondary hitting. Miguel Cabrera in the last weeks kind of turned it around. He now leads the team in home runs. The thing that I'm now most concerned about and most worried about is, when is Victor going to start to hit? Or is he going to start to hit? I think that kind of becomes the question, because you got to remember, he's up there in age. He's got a body that is continuously broke down over the course of the last 4 and 5 years. So has the bottom just completely fallen out for Victor? Is he done? Are we running up a guy at DH, a guy who we expect to hit, a guy who is expected to sit there and drive 20 home runs and sit there and push across 80 RBI in a season? Is he done? Is he now just a $16, $17 million carcass that's out there that's not performing?
No, I think that this is just a slump. I think he will get out of it, and what will help him is, once JD returns, you naturally put in JD at the 4 spot, and you move Victor Martinez down in the lineup, and you go, I think that you might have an opportunity for him to kind of get out of it. And it's one of those things with him, one key hit, maybe he gets that home run to extend the home run streak to 14, which would be then tying a record that Cleveland set back in 2002. Hey, you just get one key hit, it gets the ball rolling, and you got to remember, transitioning to DH is really challenging in that your job is just to go out there and contribute offensively. He's not like fully in the flow of the game in its entirety, and he just is going through a slump right now. But a guy like Victor Martinez, all you can look at is his overall career numbers. And just like we commented when Justin Upton started the year last year in a slump, you say, you know what? He just might need that classic 3 to 4 days off, take a series off, kind of regroup, sit back, and maybe get back to the hitting cage, the video room, see what you're doing, and get back to where you were. Because Victor Martinez is a proven hitter, and a guy that, if he gets off the schneid and can contribute offensively, really helps his team out, because Upton's banged up. Miggy probably a little bit banged up, but not showing too much wear and tear already in the start of the year. Looks like his back injury is going to be no problemo. So you look at it and you say, okay, and if it does continue, then you just hope that JD Martinez comes back and swings a good bat to take some of the pressure off of Victor Martinez, if this is the end of the road for him. But at this point in time, I think that he will contribute offensively, and he will get out of this slump probably in the next couple weeks.
I like what you're saying, but a lot of this is now contingent on, when does JD come back? Can JD come back, and can he swing a hot bat? And if so, can you sit there and plug him into that 4 spot? And would Victor be willing to either A, take a couple games off, or B, is he willing to sit there and move down in the lineup? And if he's willing to move down in the lineup, how far down are we going to move him? Because I don't mind if we're sitting there, we're looking at some type of a batting lineup where you've got Kinsler, you've got Castellanos, you got Cabrera, then you've got JD Martinez. Maybe you go Justin Upton and then Victor Martinez. I'm not necessarily opposed to something like that, but that is Victor going to be willing to do that? Is he going to cause a stink? Does Ausmus have the balls to be able to sit there and do that himself? And that's the big question. Does Ausmus have the gumption to be able to sit there and say, look, Victor, you're hurting this team where you're at right now. We got to move you down. And it's a hard call to make. And, I think Ausmus at this point realizes this might be his last go. You were talking about an extension for this guy. This might be his last go. This might be the one move that he has to make for this team to help pull it up and really sit there and help elevate this team to be able to say, hey, we're going to sit there and we're going to take the Central by the throat, and this is the one move, moving Victor down in the lineup, that's going to help us get there.
To answer your question, it looks like that on Wednesday, JD Martinez would have batted and been on the field taking batting practice, and that looks like it's moving towards the possibility of him returning. Knowing when will be tough to decipher, but hey, they're going to start the process of getting him back, and usually when the guy's back on the field taking batting practice, that usually indicates a sign of a return within maybe 7 days.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe within a week or so, but that's if he doesn't run into any complications, if he's not feeling any soreness. I mean, he has one of those injuries where it can stick with you for the entire season. It's a Liz Frank, if I recall correctly, and one of those injuries, those aren't good things. Usually football players are dealing with those, and when they deal with it, they sit there and it's, can you weather the pain? Can you tough it out? And if you can tough it out, how effective are you while you're toughening it out? And look, he took some time off. He's going to sit there. He's going to go through what their protocol is in Major League Baseball, where he's going to sit there, take some batting practice. He's going to run around the field. And as long as he's okay, I think for a week, then he can come up. And the hope is that he kind of picks up where he left off.
And let's see how Justin Upton reacts to that contusion that he got in Tuesday's game, because he came out, the x-rays were good. He came out and, he was obviously in pain, which resulted in him leaving the game. But if there's any lingering issue with Justin Upton, now you're down 2 outfielders, and you could be featuring an outfield with Romine, Jacoby Jones, and Matuk. Oh, that's not really a lineup. That's not really going to threaten too many people. Or if you insert Tyler Collins in there too.
Yeah, it's that's not looking good, to say the least. So again, wait and see. Hopefully, JD, everything works out, and hopefully Upton can sit there and take the field, and hopefully his bat kind of picks up, because it's not been as good as you'd like it to be at this point in the season.
But overall, I think there's a lot of good things to look at with this team. It's enjoyable games to watch, a little bit too stressful in terms of the bullpen, but when I look at it overall, I'm pretty satisfied with a 8-5 start and winning series.
I know. I feel like we're sitting there, we're talking real negative about this team, and they're number one in the AL Central, and it's been a really good start to the season, and I don't mean to be a rain cloud here. This has been a really good start for this season for these Tigers. And I think there's a lot of promise here. I think they're playing well. I just think that we have to kind of temper some expectations. I don't know if this is all smoke and mirrors, and that's how they're getting there. And that's kind of where I'm a little bit nervous, Again, great start to the season. I think the bats are playing exceptionally well. I think the starting rotation looks good. And I even think that this bullpen, which might be the kryptonite to this team's starting rotation and to this team's batting lineup, the bullpen might be the kryptonite to that Superman and might sit there and derail it, has performed well. You've got a closer who's performed admirably well. You've got 2 setup guys who have done the job. It's just sitting there trying to find a few other arms in that bullpen to sit there and be able to carry it through.
All right, let's take our first time out. We'll come back with the Doc and Jock Wrestling Report. Jock has been watching overseas wrestling and also some news and notes regarding YouTube and wrestling that is very interesting. You'll definitely want to stay tuned for that. Stay with us. You're listening to the Doc and Jock podcast on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc here. I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for easy ways to post podcasts, because who has time to spend 20, 30 minutes figuring out how to upload a podcast? So that's why I chose Podomatic. Our host site has been awesome, and we've only used one in the entire reign of this podcast. Through the several hundred that we've uploaded, Podomatic has been a great help. They're easy, they're friendly, and the biggest advantage of using Podomatic is their user-friendly platform. If you go to Podomatic.com, check out how to upload a podcast, and within 5 minutes, you should be able to learn how to get your podcast from the basement or your studio up to the internet. And that's how we've been able to grow this project, is by having a great host site. And Cousin Adam can be a testament to Podomatic as well, in terms of the fact that within literally 5 minutes, you can have, your audio up, and that's a key advantage of using Podomatic, and it's been great.
Absolutely. When you're a total boob who basically all you do is lift weights, put them down, and that's all you can really bring to the platform here, Podomatic makes it totally easy for a guy like me to be able to sit there and upload a podcast for a guy like you.
No doubt about it. If you're looking to start a podcast, no better place to check out than Podomatic.com. Ooh, one of my favorite segments of the week. I want to play something for you, because they don't do it too often, the WWE, but when they bust it out, oh man, what a great way to get the crowd involved. And I want to talk about the contribution that the opponent made to the evolution of this superstar. I want to play this clip and get the juices flowing.
Big Show looked like he was going to come off the top. Now Braun Strowman looking for a superplex, perhaps of his own. Strowman and Big Show. No way. Above the ring, Big Show going to the top rope now.
What? No way. This can't be possible.
What on earth? Oh! The ring just exploded.
They broke the fucking ring!
The best was the referee just dying. He was catapulted off the ring.
And the crowd goes apeshit. Now, they don't do it too often. The last time they did it was about 6 years ago.
I kid you not. These two gargantuans just collapsed the ring.
I really like Corey Graves. He does a really good job.
John Cole went flying.
Yeah, he did.
Literally
I thought he died.
out of the ring as it imploded. These two behemoths.
Now, we've talked about
in the middle of the
how you build a superstar, and this is a perfect example of how you elevate a superstar, is how they've utilized Braun Strowman in the last couple weeks. Now, we were complaining a little bit in terms of having him lose to Roman Reigns and some of the things like that, but that's just the evolution, and I think we start to see that once a guy gets up to that stratosphere of getting a push, the WWE tends to kind of have him lose some battles so that the crowd can get extra behind him and set up that dichotomy of like us versus them. But I want to give credit to the Big Show, because that's a perfect example of how you use a guy at the tail end of his career to elevate somebody. And Chris Jericho is kind of doing it now, but I think the award for the guy that's really helping, the other wrestlers get over is the Big Show. And at this point in time, what a way to elevate Braun Strowman. That's how you do it, is you utilize these other wrestlers that are at the tail end of their career, that have stature, that have cachet, that have a stature and a great level of respect. So for Braun Strowman to superplex the Big Show into the center of the ring and collapse it is just all around great for the Big Show to allow it to happen, for that moment to be utilized, and really in a way putting over Braun Strowman. So great amount of respect to the Big Show for doing that. And that's the nature of the job, is on your way out, you put people over, and that's how you build superstars. And Braun Strowman, if you say he's being held down, whatever it is, he's got it. And that's the factor that I appreciate, is that he's a superstar, he's a big freak, and when you utilize him throughout the show of just coming out and destroying people, it's an A-plus show.
My big question is Braun Strowman a heel or is he a face? Because the crowd absolutely loves this guy. And what he did to Roman Reigns a week ago just got him nothing but favor with the crowd and with the WWE Universe. So is this guy the heel? Is this guy the face of the company? I mean, what is going on here? Because this is now a weird and just kind of head-scratching moment if you sit there and you follow the WWE Universe. Because it's obvious that they want Roman Reigns to be the face, and it's who the company is pushing to be the savior. But the crowd is so enraptured by Braun Strowman, and it just seems like he's going around and he's beating the crap out of all of these guys, and he's just doing all these heel tactics. but they get over so well.
Light, Stone Cold kind of reaction.
Exactly.
Super light, but
it's so weird.
No, the dynamic is really good because what they've done is they build up a monster, and people like to see monsters go out there, but that can wrestle. I mean, Braun Strowman's not going out there just doing light moves. He's doing spots. He's doing some great things, and they've utilized him in a way where we don't exactly know what he's thinking or what his intentions are, and then he just shows up there to destroy people. And I like the idea of just having him say, I want competition. And when the general manager, either Kurt Angle or previously Mick Foley, didn't give it to him, then he'd go off and do his own thing. And I think the rebel mentality really gets over with the WWE universe, and people like to see big freak monsters destroy things. It's a cool gimmick.
I like him going rogue, and I think you should go rogue more often. I think maybe you need to start to get away from this whole I want competition type thing. You know, you going around beating up guys in the locker room, that's fine. I'm cool with that, but you're going to have to develop something more than I want competition, because that's going to get old really, really quick. But I do like the way that they have sat there and they built Strowman up. They knocked him down a peg, and now they're sitting there and they're building him back up. And you're right. Kudos to the Big Show for being able to sit there and take a guy and be like, look, I'm going to help elevate you. I'm going to make you look better. And you can see the way that he works in the ring with Braun Strowman. There's been a couple times where Strowman has botched a spot or two, and Big Show's been like, all right, let's do it again. Let's fix it. On the fly, in the middle of the ring, let's fix it. Let's do it right, and let's put you over. And Big Show's done a great job helping build up Braun Strowman. And it's awesome to see one giant putting over another giant in just this battle of monsters. I think it's been one of the fun things to sit there and watch. And I think it says a lot about a guy like the Big Show. And like you said, at the tail end of his career, he's now elevating that next set of monster to sit there and kind of take the torch and run with it.
So what was your overall reaction of Raw? A couple things that I noted when I watched it is that they're not utilizing the cruiserweights properly at all. TJ Perkins.
Oh, you don't say.
No, they're not utilizing it properly. Their matches are kind of dull, and it's just kind of filler. I'm not impressed at all. That's one thing I noted. And then throughout the show, I just kind of go, what's the direction for Enzo and Cass? I think that you're potentially hurting their stock because, yes, we talked about losing and how it can kind of hurt your credibility, but when you keep having losses after losses, it's like, when are Enzo and Cass going to get over on a team, and how are you going to really build up Enzo and Cass when you keep having them lose to the likes of Gallows and Anderson? So I look at that and I go, for guys that, have put in their time, I think they could be further along had they been pushed properly. So those are the two things that I look at. And with the women, I thought they did a good job of elevating Alexa Bliss and setting up some of their storylines. But overall, I thought Raw was a decent show.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I thought Raw was kind of weak this week. Again, you talked about the tag team there, and you've got these forces, and you've got these teams out there that you sit there and you mention their name, and you're like, oh yeah, that should be a lot bigger than what it is. I mean, these guys are basically being relegated to beneath the mid card, and it's just because they're not being utilized properly. I mean, you've got Anderson and Gallows, who are two guys who could sit there and wear a tag team belt. You've got the Hardy Boys, who are wearing the tag team championship right now. You've got Sheamus and Cesaro, who I think Cesaro, out of the two of them, could be above a mid card and possibly, if you utilized him correctly, could really get over with the fans and be that next big guy if you sat there and you pushed him properly. On top of that, you've got Enzo and Cass, which, again, where are they going? What are you doing? It just seems like you've got this tag division that is floundering and going absolutely nowhere right now. And that being said, what are you going to do with these guys? It just seems like it's just recycled bits after recycled bits. I mean, how many times can we see Cesaro and Sheamus go out there and basically lose matches? Same thing with Enzo and Cass. And what are you doing to the club? The club, when they came in, that was a hot faction. That was something that was awesome to see. And now I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm over it. Like, let's move on. You got to start to build these guys up in a certain way where everybody's starting to get over, and they're just not doing a good job there. As far as the women's matches on Raw, yeah, I like how they sat there and they kind of spun it to make Alexa Bliss, I guess, the next big thing, the one who's going to come for Bayley's title. But I don't know about you. When I was watching this women's match, I was totally bored by it. And again, Nia Jax, I don't think she's ready. I don't think she needs to be out there all the time. I think she would do well by being taken off TV and maybe being rebranded, given a new entrance, giving a new ring gear, and you can have her come out and you can have her be your Braun Strowman of the ladies, but you got to sit there and you got to repackage her. And you're going to have to do it over the course of the next couple weeks by taking her off television and then bringing her back and having her be that force. I just don't think she's ready for it right now, nor do I feel that she deserves to be the champion or to even get a push like that. And she's not necessarily getting it. As far as Alexa Bliss goes, yeah, I think Alexa Bliss and Sasha are the two who could really kind of carry the torch for this Raw women's division. And Bayley is there, and I like Bayley. I don't know. I think Bayley's gimmick is starting to wear thin on the WWE universe and the crowd. You know, hey, great, I like Macho Man too. And hey, great, I like that you have tassels on your shirt and you rock a side ponytail. But what else do we have?
Right, she's going to need to evolve. She's going to need to evolve.
Right, there's nothing else there.
Her mic work has to get better too.
It does. It just falls flat. You've got Sasha and you've got Alexa Bliss, and then after that, it's who? You know, Mickie James isn't going to do it for me. You know, and I don't see how this women's division is going to evolve and develop when you're sitting there trying to push the same tired bits over and over and over again, and it just keeps kind of falling flat. It'll be cool to see Alexa Bliss sit there and be able to do something, but again, she's kind of becoming a tired bit too. She comes out, she's in her hometown, and she's getting cheered, and she's sitting there arguing with the crowd. They're cheering you, you dummy. Don't argue them. Sit there and take the cheer. You know, they're almost programmed because of bad script writing, and they're stuck to reading these lines and these bits that just totally miss the mark. And there's no evolution of a character because they're cookie cutter. You got to be able to take that next step, and the only person who's going to allow you to take that next step is you. Go a little bit rogue. Go a little outside of everything, and sit there and elevate your character. This is your character. This is who you are. Bring them up, bring them to the forefront, and the only person who can do that is you. And I feel like a lot of the stuff on this week's show totally fell flat because the characters weren't getting the character over.
Looking at SmackDown, so a couple of weeks ago, I had talked about, developing an enhancement talent tournament and potentially having Kurt Hawkins and Jinder Mahal be in the finals. Lo and behold, Jinder Mahal got a push. I was like, get the hell out of here. How on earth do you have a match to determine the number one contender to potentially fight Randy Orton, and the guy that comes out is Jinder Mahal, but the crowd likes it. And it's a situation where on SmackDown, what's the theme? Non-traditional guys go over there to get a chance. And Jinder Mahal is a big freak, and he can wrestle, and he gets a reaction. And so that's a guy that's put in his time in his second stint with the WWE, and now he's got himself a chance. And so when you look at it objectively, you go and you say, Jinder Mahal has no business headlining a pay-per-view, but hey, that's where SmackDown is that, hey, it's a land of opportunity. A guy like Jinder Mahal can go out there, win a match, and it was a truly surprising moment. But overall, I thought SmackDown was okay. It didn't do a whole heck of a lot in terms of moving anything really significantly. Yeah, you make Charlotte the number one contender. Yeah, you have AJ Styles go out there and fight Baron Corbin. But it just kind of thought to me like it was a show that they had to do and they had to put it on. But I just felt like they could have did a little bit more. And I didn't really like the segment with Shane McMahon in terms of what he was doing out there in anything. Kind of talking a little bit about Natalya and when she bum rushed and said, oh, well, how does Charlotte get this opportunity? He comes out there and says the same old bit about, hey, this is a spot you got to get an opportunity. It's just kind of thought like it was a show that could have been done a little bit better.
It really felt like we were just kind of hitting repeat on both Raw and SmackDown, taking old bits, trying to maybe not even try to freshen them up or repackage them, but just try to resell them. And it was a lot of the same things that we've done weeks before, crammed down our throats again. And look, I was totally wrong on Jinder Mahal. I thought he was down. Apparently he's up. He's the number one contender now. And I do like to see this guy get a little bit of push because you're right. It's the anti-superstar, right? It's some guy. He's just a guy, right?
And there are times where you just take a guy that's a low level guy and put him in a title match. That's pretty cool.
Right. I agree. I think it's nice to see. It's refreshing. And he's out there and he's basically calling out everybody, all the fans who are booing him and saying, you know what? You don't like me? I don't care, because now I'm the number one contender. Because going into this 6-man challenge, I thought for sure the one who was going to come out was going to be Sami Zayn. I thought we were going to have a Sami Zayn Randy Orton match, and I thought that was where we were going to kind of go. Instead, we get Jinder Mahal, and I'm going to be honest with you. Randy Orton as the WWE champion right now, it's not doing it for me. Yeah, it's like watching paint dry. He's not doing a good job carrying that title at all. So you know what? Let Jinder Mahal come in. Give it to Jinder Mahal. I think that would be outstanding if Jinder Mahal, and I never thought in a million years I would be saying, I want to see him be the WWE champion. I'd never thought in a billion years I'd say I'd love to see that, because you know why? It'd be something different. It'd be something totally different. Randy Orton, I didn't think deserved to hold that championship when he took it off Bray Wyatt. And now to give it to a guy like Jinder Mahal makes me totally interested, because I'm like, wait, who? This guy? And again, the thing of SmackDown, the land of opportunity, right? This is a guy who was kind of just there in on Raw, and he was part of this tag championship scene that was just kind of there, and they were just kind of losing to Enzo and Cass regularly. They were getting beat up by the club regularly. He goes to SmackDown, and then within 2-3 weeks, this guy now possibly is your WWE champion. And I like that. I think that's outstanding. I think that's really good work by the SmackDown writers to sit there and elevate a guy who is mid-card level and really bringing him up. And now you're sitting here, you're taking a step back, and you're saying, all right, this might be the guy. All right, let's get behind him. Let's see what he does with this. And look, physically, it's what Vince likes, right? The guy's got like zero body fat on him. You know, he's got so many cuts, I want to give him a Band-Aid, you know? I mean, he is what my wife refers to as nurse porn, because he's got veins all over his body just running everywhere. It looks like a bad road map somebody drew on him. So, look, I'm all for it. You know, I think it's great that he won the match. I didn't think it was going to go that way. You know, something different. Let's go with it, and let's see what happens.
Speaking of bad roadmaps, do you think the trajectory for Baron Corbin has been the right one? When I look at it, I go, well, maybe a little too fast for the guy. I know he's been there a year. He won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal a couple years back.
Because if you didn't know, he was going to tell you about it.
He's a good wrestler. He's a solid heel, but just kind of a guy that's there. I like the matches that he has, but I don't think he's at the level where he's supposed to be. I think he should be down a notch. I think he's being elevated a little too quickly, and it kind of shows a little bit where when you're in a match with AJ Styles, and again, how many times can you get a near fall and scream to the referee that you're so close? And it's just one of those things where he needs to continue to have a little bit of lower level feuds before he gets into some stuff with AJ Styles and gets to the top.
I think you like his matches because of who he's in there against. You know, honestly, AJ Styles could take a broomstick and make it look like it's good, you know? Baron Corbin has the same moveset, the same moves over and over. He sits there, runs out of the ring, runs around the ring post, runs back in, and then does something. Whether he sits there and runs into the opposite ring post or he sits there and clotheslines a guy. And that's what it is. And I don't think he's good. And they're really pushing this guy, and I don't know why. I think you've got other talents on this roster that you could push. A guy like a Sami Zayn. A guy like when he gets healthy and comes back, I hope Rusev gets a push, you know? These are guys I'd much prefer to see than a guy like Baron Corbin. And what I don't get is you've got AJ Styles, who I think we both agree has basically carried the banner for SmackDown, has carried the banner for WWE over the course of the last year and a half or so. You've got AJ Styles, and you're telling me that AJ Styles is hell-bent on becoming the U.S. champion? That's where we're going with this, right? Because look, I love Kevin Owens. I think he's a great heel, and he's owning that U.S. championship, right? This is my championship, and nobody's going to take my championship from me. I mean, he does a lot more for that championship title than Randy Orton does for the heavyweight championship. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I just feel like you're pigeonholing AJ Styles. You're making him carry Baron Corbin, and then you've got a guy like Kevin Owens who could be doing so much more, but he's doing everything he can do to make this belt look good. I just feel like it's bizarro land, because you've got all these guys who, if you sat there and you restructured and you reshuffled the deck and you said, hey, this is a guy who you could possibly be your champion, you'd probably say AJ Styles. And I say, yeah, okay. And you could say maybe Randy Orton. I'd say, yeah, maybe. And then you have Kevin Owens. You're like, yeah, he could maybe be your champion as well. All right, well, what about Jinder Mahal? I don't know, but well, maybe we can go somewhere with it. What about Baron Corbin? I don't care. Nobody cares, right? And then you got a guy like Sami Zayn. Like, all right, well, Sami Zayn maybe be U.S. champion. Maybe you could sit there and he could be one of those guys who would sit there, maybe bubble up, and if you pushed him right and you built him well, he could sit there and maybe be a champion, you know? It just, I feel like there's a lot of, it's almost like the land of misfit toys right now, and everybody's kind of in a bizarro land doing different things, doing these different bits, and it's just head scratching to me. I just don't like Baron Corbin. I don't like his push that he's getting, because I just feel like it's falling flat. That's a really long way to tell you about that, so I'm sorry, but it's just what it is.
Now, you've also noticed a change in JBL, maybe a little bit more toned down version of JBL. Maybe they kind of had a meeting behind the scenes and said, hey, listen, you're getting some heat. We can't be kind of promoting this bullying bullshit. Listen, we all know what happens. Let's just kind of tone it down, and let's kind of move this along so it subsides as fast as possible. So I sense you noticed that too?
Oh, yeah. Don't be surprised if JBL is no longer working his heel gimmick as the announcer there. He's going to be much more friendly, much more PC, and watch for him and Byron Saxton to basically become butt buddies. So, yeah, just keep an eye on all of that, you know? They're working on trying to get this whole Mauro Ranallo thing squashed, and they're trying to dampen it out. And word on the street is that WWE is trying to come to some type of a settlement where Mauro won't be able to discuss what happened. So in the meantime, JBL is going to be, you know, hey guys, I'm your friend, and look, hey Byron, you're a great guy. You're doing an awesome job. Do you remember like 2 years ago, he was sitting there murdering Byron, telling him how he was a giant idiot. Just watch how JBL's tone will change over the next couple weeks as all this, they try to let it die down and they try to move away from it. Just keep an ear on it.
A couple of quick hitter news and notes that I noticed. Obviously, real sad the passing of wrestler Rosie, passed away at age 47. I'm not exactly sure yet if the cause of death was revealed, but it's always sad to see a wrestler pass away early. Way too many wrestlers have passed away. And SmackDown is getting new talent with Maria and Mike Bennett showing up there on the product. So it's nice to see new addition to the SmackDown roster, and it will be interesting to see how they're utilized when they come on.
Absolutely. So if you're a fan of Maria and Mike Bennett, and for those who don't know, Maria Kanellis, she was formerly with WWE, left, ended up going to Ring of Honor, where she got to work with her husband, Mike Bennett. And the last year or so, they've been on TNA. They've done a lot of good work there. They're now going to be brought over to SmackDown as the newest couple. It's going to be interesting to see how they're packaged. When they were on TNA, they were this heel it couple, and it was really interesting. This might be your Miz and Maurice of SmackDown. Hopefully they can repackage them a little bit different and let them do their thing, because they're both really effective in what they do. And Mike Bennett's a very good wrestler, and he's an outstanding heel. He was an outstanding heel in ROH. He was an outstanding heel in TNA. Maria was an outstanding heel in TNA as well. Plus, she's good to look at. She's nice eye candy. Some more news and notes. Let's kind of move over to New Japan. So Shibata, he was the guy who was challenging, and they were trying to work an angle and bring him up a little bit. He sat there, and he did a headbutt in the middle of his move against Okada, and it was, by everybody who was there, said it was deafening. Like, he hit, like, it was a staunch headbutt, like, it was legit. He hit him in the head with his own head, and, you know, Okada took the headbutt and was able to end up getting the win, and the video doesn't do it justice according to the people who were in the arena. Shibata cracks Okada in the head with the headbutt. Next thing you know, Shibata takes a step back, staggers a little bit. There's some blood that starts running down his head. He's essentially been in the hospital for the last week or two, and it's a good possibility that his career is now over because he did this move that was just totally unnecessary. This was like one of those matches where you're like, oh man, this is an awesome 5-star New Japan match. You're like, everything that, you know, Okada does is pretty great. And now him and Shibata are having this really awesome just kind of build up where maybe Shibata might get the belt off of Okada, and we're going to kind of see what happens, you know. On top of it, you've got Kenny Omega off in the distance. So all this is building, and Shibata takes this unnecessary move where he legitimately headbutts Okada, and it's for no good reason. So now Shibata's career is probably going to be over.
So for somebody that's new that wants to delve outside of WWE and they want to maybe look at Ring of Honor or New Japan, where do you go find that content? YouTube?
Well, if you want Ring of Honor, you can, if you set your DVR, you can get it on, I believe it's channel 20 late at night on Saturdays. I have it set up to where my DVR records it for me. As far as New Japan goes, you can get it on Access TV. Look it up on your programming, on your channel guide, and you're going to have to set, again, your DVR to record it late at night, and you can watch these matches. Or you can sit there and you can go to the internet. You can find everything on the internet. And there's New Japan has their own channel, has their own website, and they basically can feed you the information. You can get it all off Access TV, and get it off the Fight Network. You can get stuff. There's different programming outlets where you can get ROH and you can get New Japan's matches and content. So it's all over the place. And New Japan has a lot of great talent. New Japan does a really good job, and ROH does a really good job. If you look at most of what you've got for your WWE roster now, it was all ROH talent before. So, and speaking of content and maybe some censorship and limitations, YouTube is now limiting and censoring their wrestling content, and they're not they're not paying on their advertising dollars that they promise some of the wrestling content out there. And YouTube's a great spot for a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different content, a lot of different online information. And there's a ton. When I say a ton, I mean they're everywhere. That's what I listen to all day long, are different wrestling podcasts on YouTube. That's where I get most of the information that I'm able to bring back and discuss with you. I get a lot of stuff, and I get bits and pieces here and there, and things that make me go, hey, let me go check into that a little bit, And then I sit there and I start looking into it a little bit. It's all through YouTube, and YouTube is now starting to limit and censor the wrestling content. They don't want to pay on their advertising dollars. If you've ever noticed with your YouTube videos, there usually be an advertisement ahead before the video plays and says you can skip this advertisement, or it'll force you to watch the ad and then it'll play to your video. Well, YouTube is basically saying, and they're controlling all of this by saying our advertisers don't want to be associated with wrestling. And I think it's a lot of BS. And this goes back to YouTube trying to control their advertising dollar and trying to really limit and direct who they're going to pay, and trying to, I think, maybe weed out and dampen down a lot of this wrestling content. And the unfortunate thing here is there's a lot of good wrestling information, a lot of good wrestling content out there that depends on this advertisement. And a lot of these shows aren't going to be able to sit there, and a lot of these channels aren't going to be able to sit there and continue what they're doing, because YouTube wants to play this game with them. In the meantime, while YouTube's trying to figure out whatever the hell they're going to do, these channels are now forced to do what are called patron pages, where, hey, you donate to us some money, we can keep what we got going on. Otherwise, we're probably going to have to fold up shop. Eric Bischoff is now looking to create his own network for online wrestling content, very similar to kind of what YouTube does. He's going to go and find his own advertising network, and he's going to sit there and he's going to try to put it up, and they're going to try to sit there and kind of branch off and form their own thing. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here, but I just think it's a lot of BS that YouTube, and look, I love YouTube. I love Google. I'm totally not an Apple guy. I love everything to do with Google, and YouTube is part of Google, and it just, don't be dicks. It's really what it comes down to. Don't be a bunch of assholes. The wrestling content is out there. It's everywhere. You just got to go look and find it. And YouTube now, and
it's not only an American thing; it's worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, I just got done telling you about New Japan. The UK indie scene is unbelievable. It's incredible.
And it's more mainstream now. Look, it's been on USA for damn near 20, 30 years. So, dude, there are thousands of episodes. It's the longest running cable show that's been on every week in the history of time. if you're a fan of it, great. If you're not, that's fine too, but you can't just disregard it. And they have made it more PG. Yes, they're a little bit edgy, rough around the edges at times, but overall, they have really catered a product that can be sold to advertisers. Just look at every WrestleMania. It's not just sponsored by momandpopshop.com. It's sponsored by Snickers. It's sponsored by Coke, Pepsi. Big name companies sponsor and work with the WWE, and they have an expansive marketing team. It's $1 billion publicly traded company, so it's not like it's a rundown thing. And in terms of wrestling overall, I know there are seedy aspects of it in terms of the bar rooms type stuff where there's some drama and people having a hard time getting paid, and there's the whole spectrum of really bad organizations and really top notch ones outside of WWE. But for advertisers, if you don't want to be affiliated with the brand, fine, but you're missing out on a big audience of people who spend money.
There's a huge audience, and I think that's kind of this is the one thing you can say about the wrestling audience. Yeah, some of it might be shady, and yeah, some of it might sit there and run to the obscure. Wrestling fans are some of the most dedicated and some of the most loyal fans that you will find anywhere. So if YouTube wants to kind of play this game where they're going to politic and not pay these sites their advertising dollar because they're saying, oh, the advertisers don't want this, I think it's all a bunch of BS.
All right, final segment. We're going to talk about the Detroit Lions, look at the draft a little bit closer, and this evening, 8 o'clock, if you got nothing going on this Thursday, tune into the NFL Network, ESPN. The NFL schedule is going to be released. Oh boy, a lot of people are excited to see how the teams are going to shake out and who's going to play, which opponent when. I can't wait for it. So stay with us. Finish out the podcast talking about the Detroit Lions and maybe other news and notes as well. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag, you got to check out fanaticu.com. Detroit Sports, official outfitter, and the official outfitter of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They got several locations all across Metro Detroit. They've been a great sponsor of ours since the early inception of our project, and all we ask is you support those who support us. Go definitely check out fanaticu.com for all your needs regarding Detroit sports. fanaticu.com, one of our great sponsors. You know what makes for a good day, sir?
What's that?
Talking football. And any chance we get to talk about the Detroit Lions and what the heck they're trying to do and accomplish will be a good day. And tonight, the NFL releases their schedule. Many people are excited. They're looking forward to what's going to happen. We get a chance to finally see who the Lions are going to shake out. So tonight, check out our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast because, hey, every year we say it, but we always do it. We'll definitely do the win-loss right away. Right after it comes out, we'll have it. You and I will probably be the first ones to be like, okay, first week, loss. Second week, we'll have our unofficial early win-loss record on Thursday on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. But it's a good time, man, looking at football. What's been your investment level right now, looking at the draft and where the Lions are looking in terms of improving their squad?
Absolutely, man. This is a good time. I love this time. This time of year is outstanding. I think this is probably one of the best, and you're absolutely right. Once they release the schedule, we'll go through it all, and we'll sit there, and I think you can go back over the last couple of years, and we're usually
in the ballpark.
Yeah, we're usually pretty accurate. I always say plus or minus 2 games either way. You can, so whatever we decide, I'd say add 1 or 2 games either way, and that's usually where they end up. So this past week, we're a week out from the NFL draft. I was sitting there perusing the internet. I discovered another mock draft, and I kind of wanted to sit there and I wanted to break down Maurice Morton of Bleacher Report's mock draft. So I'll give you some highlights from it. Of course, Myles Garrett. Oh, there it is. Just let it wash all over you. Myles Garrett goes number 1 to Cleveland. Solomon Thomas goes number 2 to San Francisco. Jonathan Allen goes number 3 to the Bears. A little surprise here now. Christian McCaffrey goes number 4 to the Jacksonville Jags. Marshawn Lattimore, number 5. Jamal Adams, safety, goes to the Jets. Malik Hooker goes 7 to the Chargers. Leonard Fournette, running back, goes to the Carolina Panthers. Our boy, Reuben Foster, goes number 9. Little surprise here, Mike Williams goes number 10 to Buffalo. Derek Barnett, and this is a guy who's had some connection to the Lions here, goes 11 to the Saints. Deshaun Watson goes to the Browns. What else do we have here? Dalvin Cook. This is as high as I think I've seen him ranked in recent mock drafts, going number 14 to the Eagles. Marlon Humphreys goes number 15. Baltimore Ravens pick up Cam Robinson, offensive tackle. Washington Redskins pick up John Ross. Corey Davis, local product from Western Michigan, goes number 18. Let's see. The Denver Broncos look at Zach Cunningham, linebacker, is a guy who in a couple mock drafts I've seen the Lions taking. Speaking of your Lions, Jared Davis, linebacker out of Florida. Go to your Detroit Lions at 21. Local product Taco Charlton goes 22. O.J. Howard. Now this is a guy who I've seen as high as being drafted in the top 5 and as low as in the bottom of the first round. Goes 23 to the Giants. Mitch Trubisky goes to the Houston Texans. And Kelvin King goes to the Green Bay Packers. The other local product, Jabril Peppers, goes to the Steelers. It kind of seems to be where he's going to end up filling out. And Hassan Riddick goes to the Saints.
See, I've been hearing a lot about Hassan Riddick, and many people are kind of looking at him and going, you know what? He's moving up a lot of people's draft boards, and it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, ooh, when you look at his talents, I think he could fit a need perfectly at 21, and many people are evaluating him and going, you know what? In terms of what the scheme the Lions run, Hassan Riddick could be a guy that you scratch off everybody else and say, if he's there, you take him.
Absolutely. That's probably the one guy who's starting to make his way up a lot of draft boards, and I would like to see the Lions go get. If the Lions were able to sit there and possibly fall back, if this was the kind of play its way out, I would want the Lions to possibly fall back, sit there, trade back, get a couple extra draft picks, and go get Hassan Riddick. He looks like he could be an impact player for your Detroit Lions. And look, Jared Davis, I don't know enough about him. And all of a sudden, this guy's starting to kind of make some headway in mock drafts all over the place. But I would take Hassan Riddick over Jared Davis tomorrow if we could sit there and we could get that figured out and worked out. You know what I'm saying? My question for you, who's the one guy that you're willing to trade up? Seems like a really deep draft as far as defensive talents go, whether it be along the defensive line, whether it be in the linebackers, or even for the secondary. This is a wealth of defense all over this draft. So you as the Detroit Lions, you're sitting there at 21, and there's been make no bones about it. Their defense needs to improve, and that's where they have their most holes is on their defense, whether it be the defensive line. Their secondary looks awful right now. The secondary needs to be kind of boosted up. Who's the one guy that you're looking to trade up to go get?
Okay, this may sound a little bit naive and a little bit crazy, but if you're going to commit to Matthew Stafford, and the talks are early on that this is a guy that they're going to try to offer $25 million to, and by all accounts, he could be the guy at the end of the day that could earn the most cash ever in the history of the NFL. If you're going to commit to that, then you say you can't roll him out there with guys like Golden Tate, with the receivers that they got right now. So if you're going to move up, and only in that caveat, I say forget it then. Just go balls to the wall, give him a complete set of weapons. If you're going to trade up to get wide receiver Mike Williams. Go out there, get him, complement Stafford with offensive talent, and this is a guy that's been in the top 15 in many mock drafts that I've read and that you've sent over, and is a guy I think that could come in and have some impact right away, could be that deep threat that Matthew Stafford could utilize to affect this offense, because there are sprinkling of rumors that the Lions might look at tight end in the second round or later, and they might even get multiple tight ends because of the fact that this is the deepest tight end class of all time. But the way I look at it is if the organization is going to commit to moving up to trade, I think that there's enough depth to get defense later on in the draft. If you're going to move up, then you go out there and you get a piece that Matthew Stafford could utilize and do some good things with. So if and only if you move up, go out and get Mike Williams.
What about a guy like O.J. Howard from Alabama? You know, I have seen a lot of different mock drafts where he's as high as being the fifth guy taken off the board. And I've seen other mock drafts where this one, he's the 23rd pick, 25, 26, 27, all the way down to 32. But this guy, if you hear the different analysts talk about him, he sounds like he's a game changer at tight end. would you sit there and if, all the thoughts and speculation, swirling and everybody's kind of talking, would you sit there and would you move up into the top 10 to take that guy to sit there and help fill out, I guess, your offensive line? Because he's a tight end, so he's kind of a lineman / wide receiver type depth.
There's no way you could sell that to anybody. To trade up for a tight end? Now you're going into crazy talk now. There's no way nobody would accept that. I think that trading up for a wide receiver in general might piss some people off. But there's other names as well I could consider. Reuben Foster, Leonard Fournette, Malik Hooker, all guys that could fill a spot. But in terms of who would best probably do it, maybe you could say, hey, roll the dice and really piss some people off and trade up and get Deshaun Watson. Just in case the negotiations with Stafford don't go well, hell, you could just say, you know what, we're putting the onus on you right now, throw the dagger, throw your cards out there that says, hey, if you don't want to negotiate and you don't want to maybe take a little bit less than 25, go out there and trade up in the first round and get a quarterback. See what happens.
I'm totally opposed to trading up, but if there was one guy I would trade up to go get, it's definitely not Deshaun Watson. It just is not. I would sit there. I'd probably trade up to get Reuben Foster. He would sit there. He'd help solidify my linebacking core. And again, it's going to really depend on what it would cost to get this guy. At this point, I've seen him going somewhere in the top 10 on just about everybody's mock draft. If I could sit there and trade up, give you my first round, maybe give you a third round, I'd probably go do that to get Reuben Foster. He'd be my guy. But after that, I'm looking probably just to trade back. I just don't want to sit there and give up all these resources, especially when the defense has a ton of holes that they need to address.
Now, this week, the Lions have come out and kind of spoke a little bit. Golden Tate has said he's, trimming body fat, working on, really improving upon his season that he had and really taking, the offseason program seriously. Matthew Stafford deflected the talks about the contract. He's like, look, that's my agent's job. I'm just out here to honor the terms of my contract. And the news is kind of sprinkling out that they are starting the process of negotiating. So, that's where they're spending their time in terms of Bob Quinn looking at the draft and looking at Stafford's contract. But you seem to be still enthralled with the notion of Adrian Peterson, knowing that he's still out there. But if you're looking at numbers in the neighborhood of $5 million to sign Adrian Peterson, I would say get the hell out of here, because I would even go as bold to say that the only offer I would make him is the league minimum. At his elevated age, way above 30 years old, I would think that a guy like that you could probably get for really relatively cheap. And so to offer him a big money deal, even if it is for a lot of incentives and things like that, you can do better. You can find younger talent at the running back position. So I would go along the lines of not signing a 33 or 34-year-old running back. I would just say, pass on him. Let's look, because other teams are passing as well. And you look at it and you go, if you're going to look to get somebody, there is a player that just signed his contract relatively early, and that's been kind of talked about as a reason why, because you can't trade players that are not under contract. Malcolm Butler for the New England Patriots has signed now, and there's rumors that the Saints are trying to work out a deal maybe for their first-round pick to, acquire the services of Malcolm Butler. Would you look at him as a target to acquire?
No. I would not go after Adrian Peterson. I would not go after Malcolm Butler. These are just guys that, Malcolm Butler's got a lot more tread left on the tire than Adrian Peterson does. Adrian Peterson, I don't think, fits the scheme offensively that the Lions are trying to run. Malcolm Butler is a guy who I just don't know if you can bring him in and would get the same production that you'd be willing to pay for that the Patriots are going to get out of this guy. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. At this point, I think if I'm the Lions, if there are guys out there that I'm looking to help boost my team and sit there and really try to make an impact in what I'm trying to do, after looking at what they're looking at starting as far as linebacker goes, I'm going out there and I'm trying to address my linebacker with some type of a free agent. That's just kind of where I'm going. As far as possibly doing something with a running back, I'm hearing different things, and there are different reports that GMs are expecting Dalvin Cook to possibly slide out of the first round and maybe Joe Mixon get drafted ahead of him. And look, if Dalvin Cook is available in the second round, I'll slide up and I will trade up to get him, and I will address my running back needs at that time there. But I'm going to either in free agency address my linebacking core, In my first round, I want to address my D end or my linebacking situation, and then come back in the second round. I would trade up to sit there and get a guy like Dalvin Cook. And that way I'm addressing my defense early, my running backs in the second round, and then after that, it's all defense for me. All defense, 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 defense. And who knows? Maybe Bob Quinn will sit there, trick around, and be a freaking weirdo, and I'll have to sit there and I'll have to totally redraft the entire Lions 2017 draft like I've done before for the Lions. But at this point, no, I don't want to pay Adrian Peterson the $5 million that it's being rumored that he's willing to take. And I don't want to sit there and I don't want to go and get cornerbacks from other teams that I just don't feel like they fit this team, I mean, Richard Sherman's another guy. I just don't think he fits what this team is looking to do at this time. So I don't need those cornerbacks. I don't need that running back. I'm looking to add those positions to this team. I just don't want those guys.
If you want to hear an overwhelmingly positive review of the Lions Member Summit from last week, go check out the Hindsight 20 podcast. Jerry and his friend Chris Gandy from those Detroit Guys podcast, they definitely had a lot of positive things to say. But when I viewed it, the first words out of my mouth were, oh, wow, there's a lot of suckers at this summit because they rolled out new uniforms. All the, Detroit Lions season ticket holders were there listening to Bob Quinn and all the organizations spew positivity. They roll out the new uniforms. They're okay. I'm not like blown away by it, but there were a ton of people after the event buying the jerseys right then and there. And so I just classified it the sucker summit, jokingly, but I realized, I go, wow, the Lions probably did the right thing in terms of a business model is gather your constituents, talk to them, sell them hope. And the NFL is a great place to sell hope. And that's what they did. Is they bring everybody in, give them a little bit of food, do a presentation, and wow, we got a whole bunch of new uniforms. Go out there and buy them. And damn, a lot of people did. And I was like, wow, I had no interest at all other than really to cover it and look at it. But for me, I felt bad. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people that really are diehard. And no matter the lack of success, the negative aspects of the Lions, they're there. And any products that the Lions spew out there, they're willing to buy. And the Sucker Summit was a big success.
The Sucker Summit. Let me ask you this.
Joking. We love all the fans that support the Lions. It's just that was the first word I go, oh, wow, Sucker Summit, man.
Let me ask you this. All right. Mel Kiper's been releasing different mock drafts, and his grade A mock drafts have the Lions addressing their secondary in the first round. So you'll probably take a corner, maybe you'll take an impact safety in your first round, and then you follow that up with Joe Mixon in the second round. You'll address your running back spot. Is that the type of draft that you'd like to see the Lions do? You like to see them go into this 2017 draft and see them do something along those lines?
Positionally, that's fine. I just don't think Joe Mixon will be drafted by the Lions. I would be shocked if an organization led by predominantly women with a woman owner drafts a guy with that video history. It's just, especially now coming off of the whole Aaron Hernandez situation, I think that many more people will be looking to draft high-quality character individuals. And if you want to go defense running back, that's fine, but just don't draft Joe Mixon. Try to find somebody else at impact at that spot. Joe Mixon, in my opinion, probably is going to drop a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that
second, third round, I think might be the talk where you start to say, okay, are we willing to take a chance on him? It's just unfortunate. Like I said, video is a really powerful image, and to see that in a guy, it's just hard to come back from because it's just, one of those things where there's no excuse for that. He deserves to be drafted. It's just the Lions, it doesn't seem like it would be the right fit at the right time.
I don't have a problem if they take Joe Mixon in the second round. If that's the offensive player that you're going out to get, and after that it's all defense. I'd like them to sit there and go out and get a linebacker or a D end first in my first round, and then after that you can sit there depending on what happens, who the running back is, whether it be Dalvin Cook because he's sliding by all reports, or if it's Joe Mixon who they're able to sit there and go out and get, and then after that, I wouldn't even mind this. I mean, let's play this. All right, tell me how you would feel about this. They're able to draft Hassan Riddick first round, so now you address your linebacker, right? They're able to sit there. They're able to draft Joe Mixon in your second round, and then you're able to sit there and you're able to draft a tight end like Joe Butt in your third round. Would you be okay with that?
I'd be okay with that.
I think I'd be okay with that as well. And I know that's a lot of offense, with with an impact guy for your defense. And then after that, I like what Bob Quinn's been able to do with the late rounds. You then follow that up with, I don't know, a D end of some sort, or you're able to follow that up with some guy who you think you're going to be able to rotate in on your defensive side of the ball, whether it be a linebacker or it be an end or a tackle of some sort. I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm coming to terms with that, because now I think what you have there is you've got your linebacker who appears to be, by all accounts, he appears to be a game changer. He appears to be a guy who you can sit there day one, he's starting. You then follow that up by what everybody is saying, Joe Mixon might be the best overall running back in this draft, okay? You're then following that up with a tight end who, prior to getting hurt in his bowl game, was appearing to be a low-end first round, maybe a second-round talent. You're now getting him third round, and if you don't bring back Eric Ebron next year, he might be your starting tight end, and I think I'm okay with that. I'm starting to kind of ease myself into these different thoughts and into this different mindset here where I'm okay with that. And before it was all defense, but I could possibly be okay with, you addressing a high-end player on my defense and then sitting there filling out my offense with a really good talent for my running back and a guy who I think I know what I can get if he can rebound from his ACL injury with Joe Butt for my tight end.
What confidence level do you have that will grade Bob Quinn's overall draft a B+ or higher in 1 week from today?
I'm pretty confident. And the reason I say that is, if you go back and you look at his draft last year, you look at what he was able to sit there and facilitate from that draft, I think we both agree that it was a really good draft for the Lions. Neither one of us really liked them taking a long snapper, okay? And that seems to be kind of the sticking point for most Lions fans, was them taking a long snapper. But after that, if you look at the picks that he had guys who were sitting there making contributions all over the place for this team, whether they were in the first round, whether they were in the third round, or whether they were in the seventh round. He got contributions from guys up and down that lineup. So I'm pretty confident a B+. I think we can both agree that they're going to be. We can say that he'll be able to sit there and be able to turn out a B+. I'm hoping that it's an A+ draft, but if it's a B+, all right, I'm cool with it. It's no problem.
All right, great podcast, sir. One more week until the NFL draft is getting closer. I think everybody in town is super excited, ready to see what the Lions are going to be capable of, and it'll really kick off our football talk going forward, no doubt about it, man. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited.
Yeah. Me too. I can't wait, man. We talk about it all the time. I mean, we'll be sitting on our couches, probably, and just tweeting away, and just anticipation. The anticipation, that's what it is. It's as you see and as you hear Roger Goodell come out and say, the Detroit Lions are now on the clock. Just the anticipation builds and wells within inside you. It's going to be outstanding.
Ooh, can't wait. Great podcast. Getting ever so close to magical number 200. You're going on vacation in the next few weeks, so I can't wait to talk to you about it in your preparations, and it'll be a fun time. Looking forward to all the Detroit sports talk coming up in the upcoming weeks. Always a good time. Best 90 minutes I could spend, no doubt about it. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thank you so much for downloading another episode. We greatly appreciate it.
Go Tigers. Keep crushing those homers.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do you. They talk to me.